A clash of perspectives. Zelensky's critique of Trump. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has publicly criticized former U.S. President Donald Trump's stance on the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Zelenskyy, who has been at the forefront of Ukraine's resistance against Russian aggression, has expressed his dismay at Trump's comments, which he believes undermine the gravity of the situation. The Ukrainian leader has been vocal about the need for international support and solidarity, and Trump's remarks, in his view, do not align with the reality on the ground. Zelenskyy accuses Trump of inhabiting a disinformation space shaped by Russian propaganda. He argues that Trump's statements often reflect a narrative that is more favorable to the Kremlin, which complicates the international community's efforts to present a united front against Russian aggression. This, according to Zelenskyy, is not just a matter of differing opinions, but a significant obstacle to achieving peace and stability in the region. This clash of perspectives highlights a fundamental disagreement about the nature of the war and the path to peace. While Zelenskyy emphasizes the need for a strong, unified response to Russian actions, Trump has often suggested a more conciliatory approach which Zelenskyy believes could embolden Russian aggression. The Ukrainian president has stressed that any resolution must be based on a clear understanding of the conflict's origins and the suffering it has caused. Trump's statements, often echoing Kremlin talking points, have raised eyebrows in Ukraine and beyond. Many in the international community are concerned that such rhetoric could undermine the efforts to hold Russia accountable for its actions. Zelenskyy has pointed out that misinformation and propaganda are powerful tools in modern warfare, and any leader who perpetuates these narratives is, wittingly or unwittingly, aiding the aggressor. His assertions about the conflict's origins and potential resolutions diverge sharply from the views of Zelenskyy and his administration. Zelenskyy has consistently called for a robust international response, including sanctions and military aid, to counter Russian advances. In contrast, Trump's approach, which often downplays the severity of the conflict, is seen by many as a step backward in the fight for Ukrainian sovereignty. This difference in opinion underscores the deep divisions that the war has exposed, even among former allies. Zelenskyy has highlighted the importance of a unified stance, arguing that any division within the international community only serves to benefit Russia. The Ukrainian president has been clear that the stakes are high, not just for Ukraine, but for the principles of democracy and international law. Zelenskyy's criticism of Trump's understanding of the situation is rooted in a broader concern about the spread of misinformation and its impact on international relations. He has warned that the dissemination of false narratives can erode public support for Ukraine's cause and weaken the resolve of its allies. In his view, combating misinformation is as crucial as any military strategy in the fight against Russian aggression. The Ukrainian president argues that a clear-eyed view of the conflict, free from distortions, is essential for achieving a just and lasting peace. He has called on international leaders to recognize the true nature of the conflict and to support Ukraine in its struggle for sovereignty and territorial integrity. Zelenskyy believes that only through a united and informed effort can the international community hope to bring an end to the violence and ensure a stable future for Ukraine. This clash of perspectives is not merely a war of words. It has real-world implications, shaping international perceptions of the conflict and potentially influencing the trajectory of peace negotiations. The way leaders frame the conflict can affect public opinion, policy decisions, and ultimately, the course of the war. Zelenskyy has emphasized that the stakes are too high for any misrepresentation or misunderstanding of the situation. It has real-world implications, shaping international perceptions of the conflict and potentially influencing the trajectory of peace negotiations. The international community's response to the conflict is heavily influenced by the narratives put forth by its leaders. Zelenskyy has urged his counterparts to be vigilant against misinformation and to stand firm in their support for Ukraine. The stark contrast between Zelenskyy's and Trump's viewpoints underscores the challenges of navigating the complex geopolitical landscape of the war in Ukraine. As the conflict continues, the need for a coherent and unified international strategy becomes ever more critical. Zelenskyy remains steadfast in his call for truth and solidarity, believing that these are the keys to securing a peaceful and just resolution to the war. Trump's claims and Ukrainian outrage. Trump has repeatedly made controversial claims about the Ukraine conflict, often stirring the pot with his provocative statements. These remarks have sparked outrage and condemnation from Ukrainian officials and citizens alike, who see them as not only misguided, but also harmful. One of his most inflammatory assertions is that Zelenskyy could have averted the war entirely by striking a deal with Russia. This statement has been particularly incendiary, as it suggests that the Ukrainian leadership is to blame for the conflict. This suggestion ignores Russia's aggressive actions and places undue blame on Ukraine for defending its own sovereignty. It overlooks the complex geopolitical dynamics and the historical context of Russian-Ukrainian relations. Furthermore, Trump has claimed that he possesses the ability to swiftly end the war, a claim that many experts and analysts find overly simplistic and unrealistic. By implying a simplistic solution to a deeply complex conflict, Trump seems to underestimate the multifaceted nature of the war, which involves not just military engagements, but also deep-seated political, cultural, and social issues. This assertion has been met with skepticism and anger in Ukraine, where people have been living through the harsh realities of war for years. The Ukrainian people have witnessed firsthand the devastating human cost of the war, with countless lives lost and communities torn apart. The emotional and psychological toll has been immense. Trump's comments have been widely perceived in Ukraine as an attempt to appease Russian President Vladimir Putin and undermine Ukrainian sovereignty. Many see his statements as aligning with Russian propaganda. Many Ukrainians view his statements as not only insensitive but also dangerous, as they could potentially embolden Russian aggression and weaken international support for Ukraine. By providing a degree of legitimacy to Russia's narrative about the conflict, Trump's remarks risk undermining the global consensus on the need to support Ukraine in its struggle for sovereignty and territorial integrity. The outrage provoked by Trump's remarks underscores the deep emotional toll the war has taken on the Ukrainian people. Their resilience and determination to defend their country have been met with international admiration. Their anger and frustration are directed not only at Russia's aggression, but also at those who they perceive as minimizing their suffering or siding with the aggressor. The Ukrainian people continue to stand strong, united in their fight for freedom and justice. Ukraine's place at the negotiating table. Ukraine has expressed growing concern about being sidelined in potential peace negotiations. The ongoing conflict has taken a heavy toll on the nation, and the Ukrainian government is adamant that any discussions about peace must include their direct input. This is not just a matter of national pride, but a crucial aspect of ensuring that the interests and security of the Ukrainian people are safeguarded. Zelenskyy has emphasized the importance of Ukraine's direct involvement in any talks that determine its future. He has been vocal on international platforms, stressing that decisions made without Ukraine's participation are unlikely to be sustainable or just. His administration believes that only through direct engagement can a fair and lasting peace be achieved. This stance reflects Ukraine's determination to have its voice heard and its interests represented in any diplomatic efforts to end the conflict. Ukrainian officials have been actively engaging with international counterparts to ensure that their perspective is not overlooked. They argue that their first-hand experience of the conflict gives them unique insights that are essential for any meaningful resolution. The Ukrainian government argues that as the country most affected by the war, it has a right to be a full participant in any peace process. The devastation wrought by the conflict is evident in the war-torn landscapes and the lives of countless civilians who have been displaced or affected. For Ukraine, being part of the negotiations is not just a political necessity, but a moral imperative. Excluding Ukraine from negotiations would not only be unjust, but it would also undermine the legitimacy and effectiveness of any agreements reached. The Ukrainian leadership fears that without their involvement, any peace deal could be skewed in favor of other interests, potentially leaving Ukraine vulnerable to future aggression and instability. Ukraine's insistence on being at the negotiating table stems from a deep-seated distrust of Russia's intentions. Historical grievances and recent acts of aggression have fostered a climate of suspicion and caution. Ukrainian leaders are acutely aware that any agreement made without their input could be detrimental to their national security and sovereignty. Given Russia's history of aggression against Ukraine, Zelenskyy and his administration are wary of any agreements made without their direct involvement, fearing that their interests could be compromised. They argue that only through their active participation can a balanced and fair agreement be reached, one that addresses the root causes of the conflict and paves the way for a durable peace. The international community has largely supported Ukraine's right to be a key player in any peace talks. Many global leaders have echoed Ukraine's call for inclusive negotiations, recognizing that a peace process that excludes the primary victim of the conflict is unlikely to succeed. This support has been crucial in bolstering Ukraine's position on the international stage. The principle of nothing about us without us has gained traction, emphasizing the importance of Ukrainian agency in shaping its own destiny. This mantra underscores the belief that any decisions about Ukraine should be made with Ukraine, ensuring that the voices of those most affected are heard and respected. As the conflict continues, Ukraine remains steadfast in its demand for a seat at the negotiating table, determined to secure a future that is just and peaceful for its people. The crucial need for security guarantees. Security guarantees for Ukraine have emerged as a central issue in the ongoing discussions about ending the war. Zelenskyy has consistently stressed the importance of securing robust and legally binding commitments from international partners to ensure Ukraine's long-term safety and territorial integrity. These guarantees are seen as essential to prevent future aggression and foster a lasting peace. The Ukrainian government argues that the current conflict is a direct result of Russia's violation of previous security assurances given to Ukraine. They maintain that any future peace agreement must include mechanisms to deter further aggression and provide Ukraine with the means to defend itself. The nature and scope of these guarantees remain a subject of debate. Some proposals include the provision of advanced weaponry and military training, while others focus on economic and political support to strengthen Ukrainian resilience. While the details are still under discussion, the international community recognizes the need to address Ukraine's legitimate security concerns. The provision of credible security guarantees is seen as crucial for creating the conditions for a sustainable peace and preventing future conflicts.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.